The Money Flow Index, or MFI, is an oscillator that uses both price and volume to measure buying and selling pressure. It was created by Gene Kwong and Avram Sudak, and it's also known as the volume-weighted RSI because it combines momentum and volume with the RSI formula. Momentum favors the bulls when the indicator is above 50 and favors the bears when it's below 50. As a momentum oscillator tied to volume, it's best suited to identifying potential reversals with overbought or oversold conditions and bullish or bearish divergences. Now let's load up the MFI on this chart for PBR here at StockCharts.com. If you scroll down into the chart attributes area, down here at the bottom, click on Indicators, scroll down just a little. There is the Money Flow Index MFI. The standard parameter is a period of 14. You can adjust this either faster or slower to suit your individual trading style. Go ahead and click Update, and this is the MFI 14 with a reading of 52.87, which is slightly bullish above the 50 line. Now this indicator ranges from 0 to 100 and is very good at identifying overbought conditions above 80, close to the 90 range or so, and oversold conditions below the 20 line in the 10 area. So let's take a look at some of the signals this MFI is given on this chart. Right here it was very oversold. Okay, the stock was falling, but the second low is equal to the first one. Okay, so it's actually a little bit higher. So that shows there's a possibility this stock might go up. Then right here it breaks above the 20 line, coming out of oversold territory right before the big volume that gaps it up on good news or good earnings, and the stock runs hard. Okay, then it has a little bit of trouble at the 50 line. It tries to get bullish above it, but drops below 50 and the stock falls. Okay, right here it becomes almost oversold at 20. And there's a little bit of good volume here, so it goes ahead and goes up, but forms a shooting star reversal candlestick and goes down when it breaks below this level of support. Okay, then it gets a little bit better. Green volume starts coming in as it breaks above this old level of resistance and clears the 50 line, becoming bullish in this area. Volume increases. It runs for 5 or 6 days and gets above all resistance right here. Then there's some more good news as it gaps up on huge volume at the open this day and becomes very overbought. Okay, then it forms a double top chart pattern. When support at the trend line or neckline support is broken right here, it falls. Okay, then it tries a little rally, but it meets this old level of support and makes it resistance. And when it breaks below this area of support, it falls hard. Okay, MFI breaks down through the 50 line and becomes bearish. It tries an attempt to get bullish again right here, but fails. Becomes very oversold below 20 in the 10 range. Okay, and here is another good thing MFI is good at is bullish divergences. The stock is still falling, but the MFI, the lows on the MFI are rising. Right here it becomes bullish as it crosses up through the 50 line on good volume as the stock breaks out above some resistance right here. Okay, so it has a nice run. Once it clears 50, it runs all the way to the top. Above 80 becomes overbought and the price falls. When it crosses down through 80, that is a negative, but finding support at the 50 line right here, okay, is bullish. And this looks like overall a cup and handle chart pattern, which is bullish. It has a bullish double bottom as the cup. So when it breaks above this area of resistance, volume needs to be higher than it is now in order to clear that. Here's another example of a bullish divergence. Okay, look at the MFI. The lows are rising this entire period, starting right about here as the stock is falling. That is a bullish divergence. This gave forewarning that the trend might be about to change. And when it crossed up through the 50 line right there, it became bullish. The stock ran pretty well. Okay, right here, I see a bullish cup and handle chart pattern that has already broken out above the neckline resistance on huge volume, increasing volume on the days it broke out above resistance. That's exactly what you want to see. Now here's an example of a bearish divergence where the highs on the MFI are going down while the highs on the stock price are going up. So what you wanted to see was MFI higher than this point right here on this move higher. So that gave fair warning that this rally might not be sustainable and that a pullback might be coming. Now let's look at the signals that MFI is given on this chart for GALT. Okay, first of all, it's all above the 50 line here, very bullish up until this point. Okay, it forms a double top chart pattern and breaks below support right there and falls hard. Okay, right here it almost becomes oversold. But it does a little double bottom, and when it breaks above this area of old resistance, it breaks up through the 50 line and becomes bullish on pretty good volume as it breaks above this area of resistance. Okay, then it consolidates. It's coming close to a breakout into blue sky territory above this area of resistance and does it on this day on huge volume as it closes at the highest close on this chart. Okay, then it becomes overbought and it meanders down. Right here it becomes fairly bearish, even though the stock is basically running flat with a slight bias to the downside. It almost becomes oversold again here. But here is the bullish divergence. Right here at the 20 line, MFI, the lows start going up while the stock is basically meandering kind of down. Okay, so that's a bullish divergence. And when it breaks up through the 50 line right here, a little bit of volume comes in and it starts to try to rally, but it pulls back, and then right here it starts to close above all of this resistance in this area. Okay, volume's not that great, but then right in here volume picks up dramatically and it finally breaks above all resistance in this area and everything here to close at the highest close on this chart on really good volume compared to the last couple of months. Okay, then it becomes very vertical and overbought above 80. When it crosses back down through 80 and breaks support at 80, the stock pulls back. It pulls back about 50%, and as usual, it pulls back to the old level of resistance and makes it support. And then today, it's breaking out into blue sky territory again above the highest point on this chart, on the biggest volume on this chart, and it's only noon. Okay, so good news today. But this bullish divergence forewarned that even though the trend was slightly down, that when it broke above 50, it became bullish again, and it started to take off. Now let's briefly touch on support and resistance at the 50 line. Okay, right here, the stock is in a serious uptrend. Okay, it becomes very overbought, but eventually breaks out to new highs on really good volume. Okay, then right in here it has support at the 50 line. And it goes up again. But there is a bearish divergence here. This high on MFI is much higher than this high, even though the price is much higher here than it was back in this area. Okay, so that gave fair warning that this rally may not be sustainable. Then it formed a huge double top chart pattern with a shooting star as the second top, and a day later breaks down above all of this support and crashes. Then it becomes stabilized here as the MFI almost becomes very oversold. It is below the 20 line, and then it goes up and has resistance at the 50 line throughout this entire period right here as the stock continues to go down. So support at the 50 line is bullish and resistance at the 50 line is bearish.